Picture this, you're scrolling through your phone late at night. A notification pops up, a GoFundMe campaign titled, "Help Save My Daughter's Life." There's a photo of a little girl with bright blue eyes, tubes snaking from her arms, her mother kneeling beside her with tear-streaked cheeks. The story is gut-wrenching. Cancer, medical bills piling up, a family on the brink of losing everything. Without thinking, you click Donate $50. You feel good about it. You've done something meaningful. But what if I told you that little girl never existed? That every word of that campaign was crafted by a man sitting in a dimly lit apartment miles away, counting your money as it flooded into his offshore account? This isn't fiction. This is how trust became the most valuable currency in America, and how one man exploited it to steal millions. Crowdfunding platforms like GoFundMe, Kickstarter, and Indiegogo weren't built to be playgrounds for con artists. They were designed to empower ordinary people, to let us bypass red tape, cut through bureaucracy, and help each other when the system fails. And for the most part, they work. Think about the single mom who raised $200,000 to start her bakery after a viral post. Or the veteran who got his service dog funded by strangers moved by his story. These campaigns thrive because they tap into something primal in us. The instinct to give when someone's in pain. But that same instinct is a double-edged sword. Because when emotion overrides logic, we stop asking questions. We stop verifying. We see a story that feels true, and we hand over our money without a second thought. Trust isn't just given freely, it's weaponized. And in the hands of a skilled manipulator, it becomes the perfect tool for deception. Let's break down why we fall for these stories so easily. Neuroscientists call it empathy bias. Our brains are hardwired to prioritize emotional signals over factual ones. When we see a child in a hospital bed or a family sleeping in their car, our amygdala fires, flooding us with urgency. We don't pause to check if the photo is stock imagery or if the medical bills total suspiciously align with a round number like $150,000. We act, and scammers know this. They don't just tell stories, they engineer them. Take the case of a 2019 campaign that raised $400,000 for a homeless veteran rebuilding his life. The organizer posted daily updates, grainy videos of himself hammering nails into a shed, screenshots of contractor invoices, even a heartfelt letter from a grateful neighbor. Thousands donated. But when a local reporter dug deeper, they found the veteran was a 24-year-old college student living in his parents' basement, using rented construction tools for his videos. The lesson? A good lie feels better than the truth. It gives us a dopamine hit, the satisfaction of being a hero without the messy reality of follow-through. Now, let's talk about the scammer's first move, building credibility. They don't start by asking for millions. They start small. A $5,000 goal for emergency car repairs, or rent this month. These campaigns succeed precisely because they're plausible. Who hasn't faced a sudden financial crisis? When donors see others contributing, Sarah from Ohio donated $25. Mark from Texas shared this. Social proof kicks in. We assume someone else has already vetted the story. But here's the chilling part. Many of those donors are fake. Scammers use burner accounts to create the illusion of momentum, posting comments like, "This family needs our help. Please donate what you can," to trigger herd mentality. And it works. In one documented case, a fraudster generated 87 fake donor profiles in 48 hours, inflating his campaign's legitimacy until real people rushed in. We give because we care, but caring makes us vulnerable. That's the trap. By the time doubts creep in, it's often too late. The scammer has already escalated. What began as a modest request for gas money morphs into a $250,000 plea for life-saving surgery. Updates become sporadic, then vanish entirely. When donors demand answers, they're met with vague excuses. The hospital is restricting communication, or I'm overwhelmed with treatment. But the real reason, the money's already gone, funneled into luxury watches, gambling debts, or cryptocurrency wallets. And the worst part? Many victims never report the fraud. They're too ashamed, too convinced they should have known better. One woman who lost $3,000 to a fake cancer campaign told investigators, "I felt stupid for believing. like I deserved to lose it. That shame is the scammer's final shield. Keeps victims silent and lets the cycle repeat. So why does this keep happening? Because crowdfunding platforms operate on a dangerous assumption that the majority of people are honest. And for the most part, they are. But it only takes one wolf in sheep's clothing to erode trust for everyone. In 2022, GoFundMe admitted that less than 0.1% of campaigns are investigated for fraud, which sounds reassuring until you realize that 0.1% of 300 million campaigns equals 300,000 potential scams. 300,000 opportunities for someone to exploit your kindness. The platform's terms of service warn that donations are not guaranteed, but that disclaimer is buried in legalese most of us never read. We don't donate to terms of service, we donate to stories. And stories can be rewritten at will. Here's what you need to remember. Trust is not a gift. It's a transaction. Every time you click donate, you're exchanging money for proof, and if there's no proof, you're not giving. You're gambling. The most successful scammers don't target the gullible. They target the compassionate. They know that the kindest hearts are the easiest to manipulate. But here's the good news. Awareness is armor. In the next chapter, you'll meet the man who perfected this game. A con artist so skilled he didn't just steal money. He stole hope. And he did it by looking you right in the eye through your screen, knowing you'd never suspect the truth. Because the face of a fraudster isn't what you expect. It's the one you'd trust with your life. He called himself Daniel Carter. To the world, he was a devoted father, a decorated Marine, and a man fighting to save his wife from a rare autoimmune disease. His GoFundMe profile showed him in uniform, arm around a smiling woman in a wheelchair, their young daughter perched on his lap. The campaign title? Marine needs your help to keep his family together. Over 12,000 people believed him. They donated $1.3 million. But Daniel Carter didn't exist. Not as a Marine. Not as a husband. Not as a father. His real name was Jason Miller, a 32-year-old with 3 prior fraud convictions, living in a studio apartment in Phoenix, Arizona, surrounded by fake IDs and a laptop loaded with stolen medical records. This wasn't his first scam. It wasn't even his 10th. But it was his most audacious. Because Jason didn't just want money. He wanted to prove he could make America cry on command. Con artists like Jason don't stumble into success. They study human behavior like scientists. They know that trust is built on 3 pillars: authority, relatability, and urgency. Jason nailed all 3. First, the Marine angle. He'd researched military insignia, rank structures, and even the correct way to fold a flag to craft his backstory. He posted training photos with precise details only a service member would know. The layout of Camp Pendleton's barracks, the model of Humvee used in 2015 deployments. Second, relatability. His wife wasn't just sick. She had lupus, a condition affecting 1.5 million Americans. He name-dropped treatments like Plaquenil and referenced the fatigue every lupus warrior knows. Third, urgency. Updates always carried a ticking clock. Doctors say we have 72 hours to secure the experimental treatment. These weren't guesses. They were calculated triggers designed to short-circuit rational thought. And they worked. Donors didn't just give, they shared. They tagged friends. They posted prayers on Facebook. Jason had turned empathy into a viral engine. But what made Jason different from other fraudsters was his lack of greed. At least at first. His early campaigns were small $2,000 here, $5,000 there, always for urgent but plausible needs. A car repair, a security deposit, a dental procedure. He'd even repay donors with fake receipts, building credibility for bigger asks. One victim, a nurse named Linda, received a photo of a dentist's bill showing a $1,200 procedure. What she didn't know was that Jason had used a free invoice generator app to create it. When she later checked with the clinic, they'd never heard of him. But by then, he'd already moved on to his next target. This is the con artist's playbook. Start small, earn trust, then escalate. It's why 68% of crowdfunding fraud begins with campaigns under $10,000. The smaller the ask, the lower the suspicion. And the more you succeed, the bolder you become. Jason's downfall began with a single inconsistency. A donor noticed that the Marine base in Jason's profile photo was actually Fort Irwin, a training facility 200 miles from where he claimed to be stationed. When confronted, Jason doubled down. "I was transferred last month. Thank you for your concern." But the donor, a retired Navy officer, knew Marine Corps transfers don't happen that quickly. He dug deeper, cross-referencing Jason's service records with public military databases. Nothing. Then he checked the wheelchair in the family photo. It was a model discontinued in 2018, but Jason claimed his wife's diagnosis was in 2020. Red flag after red flag emerged. The final clue? The daughter's school photo was lifted from a stock image site, credited to a photographer in Canada. The donor reported it to GoFundMe. By the time investigators traced the money, Jason had already wired $800,000 to a Belizean shell company. What's terrifying isn't that Jason stole millions. It's that he could have been stopped at any step. But we don't want to believe the heroes in our feeds are villains. We'd rather trust a stranger's story than question our own instincts. Jason knew this. In his unsealed deposition, he admitted, "People don't want to think they've been played, so they ignore the cracks until it's too late." And that's the most dangerous weapon a con artist has, our desire to believe the best in others. In the next chapter, you'll see exactly how Jason built his perfect lie. Not with elaborate schemes, but with the smallest, most believable details. Because the truth is, the best lies aren't flashy. They're mundane. They're the ones we tell ourselves to justify clicking donate. Let's dissect exactly how Jason Miller constructed his $1.3 million illusion. It wasn't about grand deceptions. It was about microscopic details that bypassed your brain's warning system. He started with a stolen photo. A real Marine named Daniel Carter, found on a veterans Facebook group. Jason cropped out the real wife, replaced her with a stock model's image, and pasted his own daughter, a toddler lifted from a Canadian tourism website, onto Daniel's lap. To the untrained eye, perfect family portrait. But here's where Jason's genius lay. He wanted you to notice small flaws. The Marine uniform had one incorrect ribbon. Of course, Jason explained it was a temporary assignment. The wheelchair's model looked slightly off. Naturally, he'd borrowed it from a friend while waiting for insurance approval. These intentional imperfections made the story feel authentically human, not polished like a scam. Because real life is messy. Scams? They're too perfect. Jason's campaign description read like a screenplay written by a Pulitzer winner. "Sarah's hands shake so badly now, she can't hold our daughter's favorite teddy bear," he wrote. "Last night, I held her while she cried because the pain kept her from sleeping. The doctors say the new treatment could give us back time. But time is running out." Notice the specificity? Not "she's in pain," but "can't hold the teddy bear." Not "doctors are hopeful," but "last night I held her." These weren't generic phrases. They were psychological landmines designed to trigger your mirror neurons, the part of your brain that makes you feel someone else's pain. Neuroscience confirms. When we read visceral details, our brains simulate the experience. You didn't just read about Sarah's suffering, you lived it. And when Jason added, "every $50 buys one vial of medication," he transformed your donation from abstract charity into a tangible Josu. Suddenly, $50 wasn't money. It was hope in a syringe. That's not manipulation. That's psychological warfare. But the masterstroke? Social proof engineered to feel organic. Jason didn't just post fake donor names. He created entire fictional communities. Linda from Ohio wasn't just a name. She was a character with a backstory. "As a nurse who's seen lupus destroy families, I had to help." Mark from Texas became a recurring voice. "Just shared this with my church group. Praying for you, brother." Within 72 hours, these personas generated 200+ comments, creating a snowball effect. Real donors saw this community and assumed, if so many people believe it, it must be true. Jason even had Linda post a fake update. "Called the hospital today. Sarah's responding to treatment. Thank you, GoFundMe family." This wasn't just lying. It was building a parallel reality where every click reinforced the illusion. And the scariest part? 92% of donors later admitted they'd only checked if others had donated before giving. We don't verify facts. We verify crowds. Jason's updates were timed like a thriller novelist. Day 1. Sarah's scheduled for surgery tomorrow. Praying for miracles. Urgency plus hope. Day 3. The hospital denied the treatment. We need $75,000 by Friday. Crisis escalation. Day 5. God moved mountains. A donor covered the surgery, but Sarah needs 30 days of ICU care. False victory to reset the goal. Each update exploited a different emotional trigger. Hope, panic, relief, then renewed desperation. And he always ended with, "If you can't donate, please share. Someone out there can help." This turned passive viewers into active conspirators in his scam. You didn't just give money, you recruited others. By day 10, the campaign had 14,000 shares. Jason was no longer begging. He'd created an army of unwitting accomplices. The final layer? Digital camouflage. Jason used a $5 per month virtual number to create a Sarah's hospital contact line. When suspicious donors called, an AI voice answered, "Sarah Miller's room is currently in critical care. Please leave a message." He forged PDFs of bills with matching hospital letterheads, generated via Canva, complete with realistic itemized codes. ICU bed fee, $4,200 per day. One donor, a retired accountant, later testified, "The invoice looked more legitimate than my tax documents." Jason even hacked a real medical blog to post a Sarah's Journey entry, complete with comments from his sock puppets. This wasn't fraud. It was a full sensory immersion. And when you saw verified proof at every turn, your brain whispered, "This is real. Stop questioning." But the cracks were there. Always. The hospital phone number traced to a VoIP service in Moldova. The ICU bed fee was 300% higher than industry standards. Sarah's blog had a typo in the hospital's address. Yet Jason counted on you dismissing these as human error. Because that's how scams win. Not by being flawless, but by making you defend the lie to yourself. Hospitals make mistakes. You'd rationalize. Maybe it's a private facility. That self-deception is the con artist's ultimate weapon. In the next chapter, you'll see where all that donated hope really went, and why Jason's spending spree was more calculated than you'd ever imagine. Because when greed takes the wheel, compassion becomes collateral damage. The moment the first $10,000 hit Jason's account, he didn't buy drugs or gamble it away. He did something far more dangerous. He proved the system worked. He wired $500 to a random donor with a note. Sarah's first treatment success. Thank you, Linda. When Linda posted screenshots of the refund online, donations tripled. Jason had discovered the most potent drug in fraud. Reciprocity. Give a little, get tenfold. But by week 3, as $500,000 flooded in, his restraint shattered. The first purchase? A $78,000 Rolex Submariner, not to flaunt, but to document. He posted a photo on the campaign. Sarah's surgery was approved. God is good. With the Rolex casually visible on his wrist. To donors, it looked like a gift from grateful family. In reality, it was a trophy. Every dollar stolen was someone else's sacrifice, and Jason wore them on his arm. The money didn't just fund luxury. It funded invisibility. Jason opened 17 shell companies across Belize, Panama, and Wyoming, each named after real medical nonprofits, like Lupus Hope Alliance Incorporated. He'd funnel donations through these entities, turning GoFundMe cash into legitimate business transfers. One $200,000 donation became funds for Sarah's experimental treatment via a Wyoming LLC. Another $150,000? Charity event expenses for a non-existent gala. This wasn't hiding money. It was laundering trust. And it worked. When GoFundMe's fraud team reviewed transactions, they saw payments to verified medical vendors, not a scammer's bank account. Jason even hired a Miami accountant, unaware of the scheme, to file fake 501(c)(3) paperwork. To the IRS, this looked like a nonprofit doing its job. To Jason, it was a firewall between him and prison. But the most chilling expenditure was his charity theater. Jason rented a Beverly Hills mansion for $35,000 per month. Not to live there, but to stage updates. He'd film himself in the driveway with a wheelchair, purchased for $1,200 on Craigslist, then edit in hospital sounds. One update showed Sarah receiving flowers. The bouquet was real, the hospital room was a rented Airbnb. He spent $18,000 on a single photo shoot, a fake recovery day, where he pushed the wheelchair through Rodeo Drive, smiling at paparazzi he'd hired. Donors wept at the miracle, what they didn't see. Jason paying the photographer in cash while muttering, "Make sure the Rolex catches the light." This wasn't just greed. It was performance art where real people's pain funded a fantasy. And the audience? They paid twice. Once with money, once with their tears. The true cost? Measured in shattered lives. A single mother sold her plasma twice a week to donate $200. A retired teacher skipped her blood pressure medication to give $500. Jason knew this. In a leaked chat with his accomplice, he wrote, "The sadder the donor story, the bigger the check. Grandma's cancer fund equals easy $1,000. He'd even stalk donors' profiles to personalize scams. When a woman posted about her daughter's birthday, he'd message her, "Sarah's birthday is tomorrow. Could you help us buy her a cake?" One victim, Maria, donated $3,000 while her own child needed surgery. When investigators later showed her Jason's mansion photos, she whispered, "I sold my wedding ring for that." That's the arithmetic of greed. $1.3 million in donations equals 12,000 people believing they'd saved a life, while one man bought a life of lies. Jason's downfall began with his own arrogance. He started flaunting the money where donors could see it. A photo from Sarah's hospital room accidentally showed a $1,200 Hermes scarf on the bed. A prayer update featured a luxury resort's Wi-Fi login on his laptop screen. But the fatal mistake? Buying a Lamborghini. Not for himself, for Sarah's physical therapy transport. He posted a video. "Thanks to you, Sarah can now get to appointments in comfort, with the cars invisible." A GoFundMe investigator cross-referenced it and found the title was in Jason's real name. The mask slipped. Within 48 hours, the platform froze the account. But the money was already gone. Split across 37 accounts, converted to Bitcoin, and buried in offshore vaults. Jason hadn't just stolen money. He'd stolen proof that kindness has a price. And in the next chapter, you'll hear how the first victim's doubt sparked a wildfire that burned his empire to the ground. Because when trust cracks, even the smallest fissure can bring down a kingdom of lies. The Lamborghini's VIN was Jason's first mistake. His second, laughing when GoFundMe froze the account. He'd already wired $800,000 to Belize. What could they do? Reverse time. But Jason underestimated the one force stronger than greed, doubt. It started with a single comment buried under 14,000 others. "The hospital in that video is Cedars-Sinai, but their ICU doesn't have blue walls." Posted by a nurse named Elena Rodriguez. Jason's team, yes, he had a team, deleted it within minutes. But Elena had screenshots. She'd spent her lunch break cross-referencing the hospital room in his update with real Cedars-Sinai photos. The floral wallpaper? A $29 per month Airbnb in Burbank. The medical equipment? Props from a film rental house. When GoFundMe ignored her email, Elena took it to Reddit. Within hours, r/scams exploded with 200+ users dissecting Jason's campaign like forensic accountants. They found the wheelchair model mismatch. They traced the Sarah's Journey blog to a $3 WordPress template. They even matched the Marine base photo to a 2017 stock image labeled Fort Irwin Training Grounds. Doubt spreads faster than belief, and once it takes root, it grows teeth. Jason's response was textbook damage control, but it backfired spectacularly. He posted a tearful video update. "Sarah's condition has taken a turn. We're overwhelmed. Please stop questioning our story. Just pray." It was genius. Who criticizes a dying woman? But Elena didn't back down. She called the Sarah's hospital VoIP number and left a message. "I'm Sarah's nurse. Your medication schedule is wrong." Jason's AI voice stuttered. "Please hold for a real person." Then silence. Elena posted the audio. Donors started digging. A retired Marine checked Jason's service records against public databases. Zero matches. A graphic designer analyzed his medical invoices and found identical font-kerning errors across 17 documents. One donor, Mark from Texas, the real one, realized his church group donation was fictional when no one remembered it. The illusion was crumbling, and Jason panicked. He doubled down on urgency. Sarah needs $200,000 for emergency plasma exchange in 48 hours. But this time, comments flooded in. Show proof. Where's the hospital name? Why no doctor's letter? For the first time, donors weren't sharing, they were demanding. The breaking point came from an unexpected source. A 16-year-old named Chloe. Her mother had donated $500 to Jason's campaign after seeing it shared by her pastor. When Chloe noticed the daughter's school photo was identical to a Canadian tourism ad, she reverse-searched the image. It led to a photographer's portfolio with a caption, Maple Ridge Elementary, 2019. But Jason claimed his daughter was born in 2018. Chloe calculated, if she's 5 now, she'd be 1 in that photo. But toddlers don't sit still for professional shoots. She messaged Jason, how old was she in this picture? His reply, God works in mysterious ways. Chloe posted the exchange online. Suddenly, thousands saw what they'd refused to see. Jason wasn't just lying. He was lazy. The same stock photos recycled. The same vague medical jargon. The same urgent deadlines that reset weekly. One donor screamed into her mic during a live stream, I skipped insulin to give you $100. Show me Sarah's face. Jason blocked her. The crowd turned. Donations stopped. Requests for refunds poured in. And for the first time in his career, Jason Miller felt fear. But his worst mistake was arrogance. When GoFundMe demanded verification, he sent forged hospital letters with a smirk. When donors threatened lawsuits, he posted a photo of a lawyer's retainer check, later proven to be a Photoshop job. He even created a fake FBI case number, case hashtag F77421, under active review. It backfired instantly. A real FBI agent spotted it on Twitter and opened an actual case. Within 72 hours, federal investigators were tracing the Belize shell companies. They found the Lamborghini purchase. They found the Beverly Hills mansion rental. They found the $78,000 Rolex. But the smoking gun? Jason's own hubris. He'd bragged in a private Telegram group, "These rubes think Sarah's real. I used a stock photo from iStock number 129487732. Investigators subpoenaed iStock. Match confirmed. The digital trail was a roadmap. The Moldovan VoIP service, the Canva invoice templates, the fake Lupus Hope Alliance LLC filings. Every dollar stolen was someone else's sacrifice, and Jason had documented it all like a trophy hunter. By day 17, the campaign was dead, but the damage was done. 12,000 people had given their trust, and one man had proven it could be shattered with a single click. In the next chapter, you'll see how technology, the very tool Jason weaponized, became his undoing. Because in the digital age, invisibility is an illusion, and every lie leaves a footprint. Jason thought he was a ghost. He used burner phones bought with cash. He routed traffic through Tor browsers and Russian proxy servers. He paid for everything in Bitcoin, converted through 3 offshore exchanges. But here's what he didn't know. Invisibility breeds impunity only until someone cares enough to look. The FBI's cyber division didn't care about $1.3 million. They cared about the pattern. Jason's scam was part of a larger network, 27 nearly identical campaigns across GoFundMe, Kickstarter, and even Facebook fundraisers, all using the same stolen photos, the same medical jargon, the same Belize shell companies. This wasn't one wolf. It was a pack. And the FBI had been hunting them for months. Jason's Lamborghini was the thread they pulled. The first crack in his digital armor was the Airbnb. When Elena Rodriguez identified the hospital room as a Burbank rental, FBI agents served a warrant on the property manager. The guest log showed Jason Miller had booked it for family medical stay, using his real driver's license. Security footage captured him setting up lights and props. But Jason's real mistake? Using the same laptop for everything. Forensic analysts recovered deleted files showing he'd edited the Sarah's Journey blog on a device registered to his Phoenix apartment. They found drafts of his campaign updates labeled Marine Widow V3 Final. They even recovered the iStock receipt for the Canadian school photo. Downloaded March 17, 2022. $45. Technology doesn't lie. It just waits. And Jason had left a trail of digital breadcrumbs. A cybercrime buffet for investigators. The money trail was even richer. Jason thought Bitcoin was untraceable. It's not. Every transaction lives forever on the blockchain. When he converted $500,000 to BTC, he used an exchange that required ID verification, Binance, via a fake passport. Investigators followed the coins as he split them across 12 wallets, then funneled them into a Panamanian exchange. But Panama had just signed a data-sharing treaty with the U.S. Within 48 hours, they had the final destination. A bank account under Daniel Carter, Jason's Marine alias. The kicker? The account required a facial recognition scan to open. Jason's smug selfie during verification became Exhibit A. Meanwhile, the IRS traced his shell companies through Wyoming's LLC database. His Lupus Hope Alliance had filed taxes showing $0 income, but bank records showed $327,000 in donations. Fraud isn't just stealing money, it's leaving receipts, and Jason had kept meticulous ones. But the most damning evidence came from where he least expected it: his victims. When GoFundMe issued refunds, donors received transaction IDs. Tech-savvy victims cross-referenced these with blockchain explorers and found payments routed to Jason's Belize account. One donor, a cybersecurity expert, reverse-engineered Jason's GoFundMe login history. He discovered Jason accessed the account from a Phoenix IP address while posting Sarah's ICU updates from Burbank. He even caught Jason using the same email to register for a local casino's rewards program. The expert built a timeline. 8 a.m. Posts Sarah's surgery update. 8:15 a.m. Buys lottery tickets at Desert Diamond Casino. He sent it to the FBI. Jason's digital life was a house of cards, and the wind had just started blowing. Yet Jason still didn't see the net closing. He bragged in Telegram, "They'll never prove intent. It's just a story." But intent was everywhere. His laptop contained folders labeled cancer templates, veteran templates, and divorce templates, each with customizable scripts for different scams. One document, Psychological Triggers V2, listed phrases like, "Every $50 equals 1 vial," and "Doctors say 72 hours." Another file, Red Flag Mitigation, advised, "If asked for proof, delay 24H then send blurry PDF." This wasn't improvisation. It was a playbook. And when investigators matched his writing style to 11 other fraudulent campaigns, the pattern was undeniable. Jason hadn't just stolen money. He'd industrialized empathy. The final blow came from GoFundMe's internal audit. They found Jason used the same credit card to verify 14 different campaign accounts, all flagged for fraud. The card was registered to his Phoenix apartment. On day 22, the FBI knocked on his door. He was filming a fake Sarah's recovery video. The camera kept rolling as agents cuffed him. Invisibility breeds impunity until the lights come on. And in the next chapter, you'll hear the courtroom drama where Jason's arrogance finally met its match. Because when you steal from 12,000 people, you don't just face a judge. You face a jury of your victims. The gavel didn't fall first. It was Maria's scream. When Jason Miller walked into courtroom 3B of the U.S. District Court in Phoenix, grinning in a $2,000 suit, Maria Rodriguez stood up and shrieked, "That's the man who took my daughter's surgery money." Security tackled her as she lunged across the aisle. Jason smirked. He'd done this before, 3 prior fraud convictions, all plea deals for embezzlement or identity theft. He thought this was just another courtroom shuffle. He was wrong. This time, the prosecution walked in carrying 12,000 sealed envelopes, each containing a victim's handwritten letter. The judge ordered them read aloud. One by one, voices filled the room. A retired teacher who skipped insulin for 3 weeks, a veteran who pawned his Purple Heart medal, a 14-year-old who donated $78 she'd saved for college. "I believed in heroes," read one note. "You made me doubt kindness itself." Jason's smirk vanished. Even kings fall when their castles crumble. The prosecution's opening statement lasted 17 minutes. No theatrics, just cold facts projected on courtroom screens. Slide 1, Jason's telegram message. Grandma's cancer fund equals easy $1,000. Slide 2, blockchain trail showing $500,000 in Bitcoin routed to Panama. Slide 3, the Sarah's Hospital VoIP call log. 0 calls from real medical staff. Slide 4, side-by-side photos. The Canadian stock image versus Jason's daughter. The lead prosecutor, ADA Sarah Chun, didn't shout. She leaned into the mic and said, "This isn't fraud. It's psychological terrorism. He didn't steal money. He stole hope from people who had nothing left to give." Then she played Jason's own video. His tearful "Sarah's surgery approved" update, with the Rolex glinting in the corner. The jury gasped. Jason's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. The evidence speaks for itself. The victims' testimonies were the knife twists. "Linda, the nurse, I donated $500 because I thought I could save a life. When I saw that Rolex, I threw up in the courtroom bathroom. Mark, the real Texas donor, I shared this with my church. Now they won't trust any fundraiser. You didn't just steal from us, you killed charity. Chloe, the 16-year-old, you told me God works in mysterious ways. But God doesn't recycle stock photos." Jason stared at the floor. For the first time, he wasn't performing. When Maria took the stand, her hands shaking as she held her daughter's medical bill, he finally looked up. "You made me feel stupid for caring," she whispered. "My child almost died because I believed a liar." Jason's lawyer cut her off. "Objection. Speculation." The judge sighed. "Overruled. The truth isn't speculation. The digital evidence was irrefutable." FBI cybercrime specialist Agent Diaz took the stand with a USB drive labeled Jason's Playbook. He showed the psychological triggers V2 document with highlighted phrases like, "Every $50 equals 1 vial." A spreadsheet tracking victims. Grandma number 3, $1,200. Skip insulin. Yes. The red flag mitigation guide. If asked for proof, delay 24H, then send blurry PDF. Diaz paused at a folder titled Template Graveyard. Deleted drafts of 11 failed scams. "He wasn't just one con artist," Diaz said. "He was a franchise." The jury foreman leaned forward, eyes wide. Jason's lawyer tried damage control. "My client made mistakes, but this is an overreach." The judge cut him off. The only overreach was stealing from 12,000 people. The verdict came on day 4. Not guilty, never a chance. But the real shock was the sentence. 22 years. Not for fraud. For aggravated emotional distress. A charge rarely used. The judge's words echoed. "You didn't just exploit systems. You weaponized human decency. And for that, you lose 22 years of your own humanity." As guards cuffed Jason, he finally broke. Not with anger, with panic. "I can fix this," he yelled. "I'll give the money back." ADA Chun stepped forward, holding a ledger. "You spent $800,000 on a Lamborghini and Rolex. The rest is gone. Like their trust." Jason collapsed sobbing. The irony? His biggest mistake wasn't the scams. It was thinking he'd never have to face the people he stole from. Lives shattered, savings gone. But the real crime was the lesson he taught America. Kindness has a price. And in the next chapter, you'll hear why the victim's pain is our collective warning. Because when trust dies, it doesn't just kill dreams. Kills the dreamers. Maria Rodriguez didn't just lose $3,000. She lost her daughter's chance at surgery. The hospital said, "Pay $3,000 upfront or we cancel the procedure." She tells me, voice cracking, "I sold my wedding ring, the one my husband gave me before he deployed to Iraq. When Jason stole that money, I watched my child's surgery get rescheduled for 6 months later. She pauses. Do you know what it's like to hear your child ask, Mommy, why doesn't the doctor want to fix me? Maria's story isn't unique. It's the blueprint. 78% of Jason's victims were single parents. 63% skipped medications to donate. One man, retired Marine Sergeant Tom Briggs, gave $1,200 he'd saved for his service dog. I thought I was helping a brother, he says. Turns out I was funding a monster's Rolex. Their pain isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in what they gave up. Insulin doses, graduation gifts, last meals with dying parents. I skipped chemo to donate $200, whispers 59-year-old Evelyn. Now my cancer's stage 4. I don't know if I'll see Christmas. Their words aren't accusations. They're epitaphs for trust. The emotional toll is a silent epidemic. Dr. Anya Petrova, a trauma psychologist who treated 47 of Jason's victims, calls it betrayal trauma syndrome. These aren't just financial wounds, she explains. They're soul fractures. Victims feel stupid, ashamed, and terrified to trust again, even their own instincts. Consider Chloe, the 16-year-old who exposed Jason. She dropped out of school after trolls called her a grifter's accomplice. Mark from Texas's church banned him from volunteering. They said I attracted scams, like it was my fault. And Linda, the nurse who donated $500, she now second-guesses every patient's story. I almost missed a real stroke last month because I kept thinking, is this another lie? The scariest part? 89% of victims say they donate less to future causes. Jason didn't just steal money. He stole their capacity to care. I see a GoFundMe now, Maria says. And my first thought isn't how can I help? It's how is this a scam? That's the true cost, when compassion becomes collateral damage. But here's what the headlines miss, the resilience. Tom Briggs started Vet Verify, a nonprofit that fact-checks military-themed fundraisers. Chloe launched Scam Spotter, a TikTok channel teaching teens to detect fraud, 2.3 million followers. Even Evelyn, battling stage 4 cancer, uses her remaining strength to call donors. If I can save one person from this pain, my suffering meant something. Their healing isn't about money, it's about reclaiming power. Maria's turning her pain into purpose. She's testifying before Congress to tighten crowdfunding laws. They called me stupid for believing, she says fiercely. But I wasn't stupid. I was human, and humanity shouldn't be punished. Yet the deepest wound remains unspoken. The guilt. I keep thinking, Linda admits, if I just checked one more thing, would Evelyn still have her chemo? That's the scammer's final poison, not the theft, but the self-blame. Their pain is our lesson, Dr. Petrova says, but only if we refuse to carry their shame. So I ask you, could you spot the signs? Or would you be the next victim? Because the next scam isn't coming from a stranger. It's coming from a story that feels too true to ignore. And in the next chapter, you'll learn exactly how to fight back. Not with suspicion, but with smarter giving. Stop scrolling. Right now, open your browser. Type GoFundMe plus scam into Google. What do you see? Thousands of headlines about stolen millions. But here's the truth they won't tell you. 99.9% of crowdfunding campaigns are legitimate. The problem isn't the platforms. It's us. We've outsourced skepticism to algorithms, assuming viral equals verified. Jason won because we wanted to believe. But trust isn't free. It's earned. And in the digital age, earning it requires one simple rule. Verify before you give. Not maybe check. Not hope it's real. Verify. Because scams don't target the gullible, they target the compassionate. And compassion without caution is just a donation to con artists. Here's your actionable toolkit. Proven tactics that would have stopped Jason cold. Follow the money trail. Legitimate campaigns show where funds go. Jason's medical bills were vague. $75,000 for treatment. Real ones specify. Dr. Lee at Cedars-Sinai, procedure code XYZ, $4,200 per day ICU. If they won't share receipts, Walk away. Trust but verify. Reverse image search everything. Drag that hospital room photo into Google Images. Jason's Sarah was a Canadian stock image. His Marine base was Fort Irwin stock footage. 92% of scam photos are stolen. This takes 10 seconds. Demand direct contact. Real organizers answer calls. Jason's hospital line was an AI voice. Text the organizer, "Can we FaceTime with Sarah?" If they refuse, red flag. No detail is too small to ignore. But the most powerful weapon, the 24-hour rule. When a campaign hits your feed, wait 1 day. Jason's victims donated within minutes of seeing his post. Real crises don't expire in 24 hours. Use that time to check the organizer's social media. Jason's had 0 posts before the scam. Search campaign name plus scam. Elena found Jason's fraud in 2 hours. Contact the hospital directly. Jason's Cedars-Sinai denied all records. This isn't cynicism. It's compassion with armor. One donor, Ben, saved his entire church $8,000 by waiting 24 hours. He called the hospital, asked for Sarah's room number, and hung up when the receptionist said, "We don't have a Sarah Miller." The hardest truth? Scammers evolve faster than we do. Jason's playbook is already obsolete. New scams use deepfake videos of doctors and AI-generated medical records. But here's your edge. Humanity leaves fingerprints. Real victims share raw, unpolished moments, not cinematic recovery walks on Rodeo Drive. Real updates say, "Sarah threw up all night," not "God moved mountains." Real organizers tag hospitals in posts, not generic prayer hashtags. And real campaigns slow down after hitting their goal. Jason's kept escalating. New complication. Need $200,000. Scammers can fake perfection, but they can't fake human messiness. So I challenge you, before you click donate, ask one question. Would a real person act this way? Because the next victim could be you or someone you love. And in the final chapter, you'll see how we turn this tragedy into a revolution, where trust isn't blind faith, but informed action. Rules exist to protect the vulnerable, but they're written in blood. After Jason's trial, GoFundMe overhauled its system. Now, campaigns over $5,000 require verified hospital letters with doctor signatures. They've banned urgent deadline language that exploits panic. And they've launched trust scores, public ratings based on transparency. Jason's would have been 0.2 out of 10. But this isn't just about platforms. It's about us. Because in 2024, trust is a team sport. When Elena Rodriguez reverse searched that wheelchair photo, she didn't just save $1,300. She sparked a movement. Today, 200,000 volunteers patrol our /scams and ScamSpotter TikTok channels, dissecting campaigns like forensic detectives. They're not cynics. They're guardians. And their weapon, collective vigilance. One person spots a mismatched hospital logo. Another checks the organizer's LinkedIn. A third calls the clinic. Within hours, they've either verified a legit campaign or exposed a fraud. Jason's era of solo scammers is over. The crowd is now the watchdog. Emerging tech isn't just catching scammers. It's rebuilding trust from the ground up. Blockchain isn't hype. It's hope. Platforms like GiveTrack now let you see donations flow. Your $50 Sarah's hospital ICU bed fee. No black boxes. No fake receipts. Just immutable proof. AI is flipping the script too. GoFundMe's new empathy scanner analyzes campaign language for psychological manipulation. Phrases like 72-hour deadline trigger 87% higher fraud risk. It flags posts before they go viral. Even facial recognition helps. When a sick child updates show inconsistent aging across photos, the system freezes the campaign. This isn't Big Brother. This is Big Guardian. And it works. In pilot tests, fraud dropped 63% in 6 months. But the real revolution? Transparency as currency. Legit organizers now beg for scrutiny. Scan my receipts. Call my hospital. One campaign for a burned firefighter included a live feed of his hospital room, with privacy blurred. Donations doubled. Why? Because we're starving for proof that goodness still exists. So where do we go from here? Simple, demand better. Not as victims, but as citizens of the digital age. Sign petitions for crowdfunding regulation, like the proposed Charity Integrity Act. Support platforms that publish fraud stats quarterly. And most importantly, share verification tools, not just campaigns. When you see a fundraiser, comment, "I verified this, here's how." Tag Hospitals. Demand receipts. Make skepticism social. Because the next Jason Miller is already typing his pitch. But this time, he'll face an army of informed givers. One donor, Tom Briggs, put it perfectly, "We don't need to stop giving. We need to give smarter." That's the future. Not blind trust. Not paranoid isolation. Informed compassion. Where every click is a conscious choice, not a gamble. Where kindness isn't naive, but armored. And where the greatest weapon against fraud isn't fear, but a community that refuses to be played. Together, we can rebuild trust, but only if we stay informed. Because the next chapter of crowdfunding isn't written by scammers. It's written by you. And it starts with a single question. Is this real? You've just heard how a single lie shattered 12,000 lives. How compassion became collateral damage in Jason Miller's game of greed. But this isn't just his story. It's yours. Every time you scroll past a viral fundraiser, every time you assume, this one must be real, you're standing at the edge of the same cliff. Trust isn't dead, but it's bleeding. And you hold the tourniquet. Stop donating on emotion. Start verifying with action. Reverse image search that photo. Call the hospital. Demand receipts, not tomorrow, now. Because scammers don't target the naive. They target the kind. And kindness without armor is just a gift to predators. So here's your challenge. Before you click donate, ask yourself one question. Would a real person act this way? If the answer isn't clear, walk away. Share verification tools, not just campaigns. Tag hospitals in comments. Demand transparency like your life depends on it, because for someone it does. This ends with you, not with Jason Miller in prison. Not with GoFundMe's policies. With you choosing to protect the very thing that makes us human, our willingness to help. Be smarter, be stronger, and never ever stop questioning. Because the next victim could be you, or the person you love most. No fake receipts, just immutable proof. AI is flipping the script too. GoFundMe's new empathy scanner analyzes campaign language for psychological manipulation. Phrases like 72-hour deadline trigger 87% higher fraud risk. It flags posts before they go viral. Even facial recognition helps. When a sick child updates show inconsistent aging across photos, the system freezes the campaign. This isn't Big Brother. This is Big Guardian. And it works. In pilot tests, fraud dropped 63% in 6 months. But the real revolution? Transparency as currency. Legit organizers now beg for scrutiny. Scan my receipts. Call my hospital. One campaign for a burned firefighter included a live feed of his hospital room, with privacy blurred. Donations doubled. Why? Because we're starving for proof that goodness still exists. So where do we go from here? Simple, demand better. Not as victims, but as citizens of the digital age. Sign petitions for crowdfunding regulation, like the proposed Charity Integrity Act. Support platforms that publish fraud stats quarterly. And most importantly, share verification tools, not just campaigns. When you see a fundraiser, comment, "I verified this, here's how." Tag Hospitals. Demand receipts. Make skepticism social. Because the next Jason Miller is already typing his pitch. But this time, he'll face an army of informed givers. One donor, Tom Briggs, put it perfectly, "We don't need to stop giving. We need to give smarter." That's the future. Not blind trust. Not paranoid isolation. Informed compassion. Where every click is a conscious choice, not a gamble. Where kindness isn't naive, but armored. And where the greatest weapon against fraud isn't fear, but a community that refuses to be played. Together, we can rebuild trust, but only if we stay informed. Because the next chapter of crowdfunding isn't written by scammers. It's written by you. And it starts with a single question. Is this real? You've just heard how a single lie shattered 12,000 lives. How compassion became collateral damage in Jason Miller's game of greed. But this isn't just his story. It's yours. Every time you scroll past a viral fundraiser, every time you assume this one must be real, you're standing at the edge of the same cliff. Trust isn't dead, but it's bleeding, and you hold the tourniquet. Stop donating on emotion. Start verifying with action. Reverse image search that photo. Call the hospital. Demand receipts, not tomorrow, now. Because scammers don't target the naive. They target the kind. And kindness without armor is just a gift to predators. So here's your challenge. Before you click donate, ask yourself one question. Would a real person act this way? If the answer isn't clear, walk away. Share verification tools, not just campaigns. Tag hospitals in comments. Demand transparency like your life depends on it, because for someone it does. This ends with you, not with Jason Miller in prison, not with GoFundMe's policies. With you choosing to protect the very thing that makes us human, our willingness to help. Be smarter, be stronger, and never ever stop questioning. Because the next victim could be you, or the person you love most.